Hello, and welcome to South Arts Informational Webinar for the Arts and Community Grants for fiscal year 2026. Today's webinar will be captioned to support attendees who are deaf, hard of hearing, or may prefer to read captions. You can enable or disable the captions in your Zoom meeting control bar. Please know that this webinar is being recorded and we will make it available on our website for those that missed today's session. I'm Nikki Estes, and I'm the Director of Arts Engagement at South Arts. I manage several grant programs. Also on today's webinar are Joseph Crawford, our Assistant Director of Programs, who will be facilitating the question at the end of today's presentation. And also, I hope that we'll be joined by Kathy Lee, our Database and IT Director, who will provide a brief demo for our grants management system. Today, I will provide a brief overview of South Arts and our grant programs, but of course, we'll focus mainly on the arts and community grants. We will review recent changes. We will look at the application process, including a quick demo for our newly implemented application form. We'll review the panel process and grantee responsibilities. Also, there will be time to answer your questions. So if you have a question, please use the Q&A box at the bottom to type in your question, and we will be sure to answer it at the end of the presentation as time allows. Let's begin with a brief overview of South Arts and our work. Our mission is advancing Southern vitality through the arts. Our work and purpose are designed to address the issues important to our Southern region and to link the South with the nation and the world through the arts. As a regional arts organization, we partner with the National Endowment for the Arts and the state arts agencies in these 9 states to deliver services and provide programming. Most of our programs operate within our 9-state region, but we also have programs that reach beyond these states to serve the national arts community. We fulfill our mission and goals by supporting artist grants and fellowships, which include professional development grants for artists, fellowships for visual artists and writers, and we also have a program that focuses on jazz and traditional artists. We have several grant programs for organizations that fall under our community and organization grants, and I'll share more about those in a minute. Our programs and conferences include our Southern Circuit Tour of Independent Films, D-Plan and Arts Ready, which is a national readiness program, and the National Leaders of Color. Next, I will briefly talk about several of our grant programs for arts organizations before providing more detail on the arts and community grants. At the moment, we are offering several grant programs for arts organizations. Although this webinar is for the arts and community grants, I just wanted to mention other grant opportunities for arts organizations. Please visit our website for specific guidelines and eligibility criteria for each of these programs. Our Arts in Rural Places grant program supports organizations that are located in rural, isolated, or small communities. These are grants up to $3,000, and they support artist engagements. We also offer grants to assist with arts organizations' capacity and their professional development needs. The professional development grant supports expenses for new professional development opportunities. This includes participation at a workshop or a conference that your organization has never attended, and it can include virtual or in-person activities. Another cycle of our accessibility grants are available now, and the deadline is September 3rd. These grants range up to $1,000, and they support programs that extend accessibility to patrons and artists. Coming soon, later in the fall, are our literary arts grants for writers and publishers. South Arts will award literary arts grants up to $5,000 to Southern independent publishers and small presses. In some cases, arts organizations are allowed to submit applications for multiple programs. However, there are some restrictions, so I recommend that you carefully review the guidelines and contact the appropriate staff if you have questions. For all of our grant programs listed here, you must be an arts organization located in our region to be eligible. So our arts and community grants are designed to support deeper engagements between Southern communities and artists. Through these grants, we aim to increase access to the arts, to expand audiences for artists, and to broaden our reach. These grants connect performing artists, fiction and creative nonfiction writers, poets, visual artists, traditional artists, or film directors in Southern communities. This grant program supports all disciplines that you see here: performing arts, literary arts, visual arts, traditional arts, and film. Our arts and community grants support engagements between guest professional artists and Southern communities. The engagement must include at least 3 separate activities or events by the artist over 3 days or more during the period of January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026. This grant only supports artist fees and not other expenses, and grant requests can range from $2,000 up to $10,000. These grants do require a dollar-for-dollar cash match, which means that applicants can request up to 50% of the artist fee. I'll give you a couple examples. So if you are requesting $2,000, that means the artist fee is $4,000. The grant request is $2,000 and your cash match is $2,000. Also, if you are requesting $10,000 from South Arts, that means that the artist fee is $20,000. And I'll talk a little bit more about the cash match in just a moment. This grant program only supports one artist, one company, or one ensemble. The application portal is open and the application deadline is Wednesday, September 3rd. Applicants can expect to be notified of funding decisions in late November. This year, there are several important changes I want to mention in an effort to expand our reach and to create space and opportunity for new applicants. Organizations that received a South Arts presentation grant, a South Arts traditional arts touring grant, or our express grant in FY24 or FY25 are not eligible for this grant cycle. Grantees are the applicants, the organizations that submitted an application, and not the artists that may have benefited from our grant. Just want to make that clear. In the past, artists could not apply for this grant program. However, I'm happy to say that this year we've opened up the eligibility criteria to include nonprofit 501c3 artist ensembles or companies. Because we are a regional arts organization, we believe that we have a unique role in our region. And this includes supporting projects that cross state lines. This year, projects must include an artist from one Southern state visiting a venue or community in a different Southern state. Also, we have changed the project requirements because we would like to support longer and deeper community engagement projects. So each project must include at least 3 activities by the artist over 3 days. We are expecting that the artist will be engaged for a minimum of 4 hours. Typically, our project periods align with our fiscal year. However, for FY26, the project period is January 1st through December 31st of 2026. If you are new to South Arts grants, please know that your application requires a unique entity identifier, or the UEI. The UEI is required of all of our grantees for programs supported by the National Endowment for the Arts, which is a federal agency. Your UEI is issued at no cost through the Federal System for Award Management website, also known as sam.gov. There are more details and instructions on our website about how to get a UEI. And finally, I want to mention that we have a new application and workflow in Salesforce. So if you've submitted an application to South Arts in the past, you will notice that the application has a new look and flow. Let's take just a quick look about who and what we fund for the arts and community grants. We only support nonprofit, governmental, or federally recognized tribal organizations in our southern region. To be clear, applications are accepted from any tribal community with nonprofit tax exempt status. Project activities can include a wide range of things, including readings, performances, film screenings, exhibitions, workshops, master classes, and lecture demonstrations. Activities must be open to the general public. However, one of the three required activities can include an activity that serves the community but may not be open to the general public, such as an in-school performance or a college class lecture. Because of who we are, supporting Southern artists continues to be a high priority for us. I mentioned before that each project must include a Southern artist visiting another Southern state. For example, a Southern jazz ensemble visits a Florida community for a 3-day residency, or a South Carolina venue hosts a visual artist that resides in North Carolina for 3 days. So, if you are the host, you must engage an artist or ensemble that currently resides in our region, not including your own state. Likewise, if you are an artist ensemble and you're applying, you must visit a community in our region, not including your own state. Also, please know that our funds only support accessible programs and our funds only support artist fees. We will use the following criteria to evaluate grant applications. We utilize panels made up of professionals from the arts field to serve as reviewers. I'm going to briefly touch on each, and we will spend some time talking about accessibility. The artistic excellence of the artist is solely about the quality, experience, or skill of the artist or company. This includes the artist or company's artistic qualifications, and it can be demonstrated in the bio, resume, or company history, as well as the work samples. The work samples should reflect and represent the type of work the artist or company will provide during the project. Be sure to include strong support samples in your application. The artistic merit of the project is about the project's quality or the quality of the project activities. The project description and schedule should include a clear description of the who, what, when, where, and why for your project. For project impact, panelists will consider whether the participants or the community served is clearly described, if there are strategies for participant and community engagement and are they well designed, if the facility or location, as well as the program, if those are accessible and if the accessibility for the program is well planned. Also, are the program goals clearly stated, and is there an evaluation plan that's appropriate to measure the project success? Capacity includes the applicant's programming history and whether the applicant has the capacity to complete the proposed project. Panelists will consider if the project budget is also appropriate and realistic. South Arts supports accessible programming, and so we want to just focus some time on that. You are required to provide physical and programmatic access for individuals with disabilities for your grant-supported activities. This is a federal funding requirement and it's also a civil rights issue. Let's take a look or try to look beyond the fact that people who use wheelchairs can get into your building. So I'll briefly talk about mobility, vision, hearing, and cognitive disabilities. For mobility, some things that you might want to think about is how you can offer a barrier-free environment, perhaps companion seating, and effective communication such as physical signage or a website with transportation and arrival options. For vision, perhaps consider large print materials, audio description, or tactile opportunities, for example. Hearing resources can include assistive listening devices, real-time captioning, or American Sign Language interpretation. And cognitive or sensory options may be offering sensor-friendly programs, pre-visit preparation materials, break spaces, and staff training. Oftentimes, applicants focus on facility accessibility. Beyond that, we want to know what actions and steps you're taking to make sure that your programs and communication are accessible. Remember that many people, from older adults with limited mobility to young people on the spectrum, want to fully participate in the art activities that you offer. There are many resources available for accessibility. The National Endowment for the Arts Design for Accessibility publication is available on their website. They also offer a self-assessment tool and other tools to help you improve accessibility. And the Americans with Disabilities Act centers are rich with resources that are free. Also, the Kennedy Center, your local state arts agency, and South Arts offer resources as well. We encourage you to visit these websites for helpful resources and tools. And in the application, please know that you will have to affirm that your project activities are accessible. Also, I want to briefly talk about readiness. While we do not require, we want to continue to encourage arts organizations to be more resilient and more prepared, and we call this readiness. Readiness planning can help you protect your assets, maintain cash flow, and demonstrate sustainability. Readiness planning can consist of documents, processes, policies, and training to guide your organization in preparing for and recovering from a business interruption. A readiness plan should be a result of an intentional decision-making process about what you'll do and who will do it if there is a disruption in your organization. There are many resources available at South Arts, and I encourage you to visit our website for more information. Before we turn things over for a quick demo, I want to explain the submission and review process. Your entire application is submitted online. You are required to complete the application form in Salesforce, as well as include the artist contract or host agreement, provide a URL for work samples, and also support materials. Be sure to include an executed contract or letter of agreement detailing the activities, the dates, and the artist fees, signed by both parties. This is an upload. You'll also have to provide an artist work sample, such as an audio or video file, digital images, or a written sample. This will be provided by URL. And also the artist support materials, such as the artist bio or the company's history. Optional documents include proof of government status, and you only need to provide this documentation if you are a municipality or a state college, for example. An additional support document, like a letter of support or a program brochure, will also be allowed. Please do be sure to allow enough time to collect and review the required materials by the application deadline. Okay, we're going to take a quick look at Salesforce, which is the platform that you will use to submit your application. I do want to mention that first you will need to register as an organization in order to access the Arts and Community Grant. I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn things over to Kathy Lee, our IT and Database Director, to provide a brief demo of the new application form and flow.
Thank you, Nikki. Um, Let me get started here by sharing my screen. Give me a second. Okay. Um, Come on, Kathy. All right, here we go. So I have already registered as an organization on our portal, and I have started my grant application for arts and community. And so this is what you would see once you have started the application. You will land here in the application, and the first screen you see is this menu screen. Um, so you navigate through the application by selecting from the drop down menu the particular section that you want to go and work on, and you also have the next to take you to this whatever you select in this drop down. Also, you'll notice on this screen, the opening screen for the application is you have this status bar. As you work your way through the application and finish these sections, these will toggle for you and you'll be able to see what you have worked on and saved. So I'm going to go to my next section, which is the organization name. And this is what you will see. So you have text boxes, you have drop down selection boxes, um, and as you can see, a lot of my information has already been completed here. Some of these selections will let you know what you chose. If they're a multi-select, it'll show you what's chosen. And now you'll see now that I'm in the application, I can actually go to the previous screen, or I can go to the next section, which is going to be the grant proposal, or from this drop down, I could pick another option. So if I go next, you'll see the next section. Now, the one thing I will tell you about this particular platform that we are now using for our applications is that when you are in a section and you start working on a section, you actually have to complete the whole section. All the required fields have to be filled out before you can move forward. So if you like a section like here where you've got narrative, if you're not quite finished, you can put holding text in there and say next, and it'll save that. Next does save your information. But once you're in and you start working on a particular section, meaning that I've start entering data, I actually have to complete the whole section before I can move forward. So this is the narrative section. Yeah, you can see now that it's requiring me to put something in there because I've landed on this. Okay, let me um, just quickly pick stuff. I'm just going to say no to these so that it'll move on. I think that should get it. Ah, because I'd selected a discipline. Okay. So you will see that was a good show of if you haven't completed everything on that particular page and section, it's going to give you messages and let you know what you need to finish. Let me see if it'll let me go on. So that was the budget. And here is the partners, project partners, and key individuals. And you would select whether if you have a partner or a key individual working with you on this, you would select whether it's an organization or individual, and then and then you would select new, and that's going to actually give you a partner record to fill out. And it's probably not going to let me move forward. Yeah. Let me see if I can, if it'll let me go back to the menu. Nope. Though, as you can see, once you have done an action on the page by doing something, the required fields have to be filled out before you can move on. I'm just going to quickly fill out the required fields here with something, and then see if it'll let me go on. And here's where you would upload if there's a contract. So this would be where you would probably put your artist in and your artist contract upload and anything else that you need to provide for that. Did I miss? Oh, I don't want to know. That looks like, well, I may not be able to move on to the next thing because it's actually, maybe that'll let me go. There we go. That's a bug that I need to get resolved. Um, so you can see now I have check marks. It's taken me back to the navigation menu, the main page, and you can see where it's actually now showing sections that I've completed. So you would work your way through the application, and then when you get to the end, you would submit. You would do a review and submit. You agree to the terms. It's set to submit my application. You click next, and you would submit. And that's pretty much the application and how it works in our new platform. I'll turn it back to you, Nikki, and I'll stay on if there's questions, okay?
Thank you so much, Kathy. Let's see if I can share my screen without you hopping out. Yeah. Okay,
I think I had to stop sharing, but I can share again if I need to.
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hopefully, everyone found that demonstration helpful. And again, we're here to answer any questions that you might have about the application form and flow. So as I wrap up, I just want to talk about some of the project requirements and also some helpful tips as you move forward. When you submit your application, the staff reviews it for completeness and eligibility. It then moves on to the panel, and the panel reviews it for funding consideration. South Arts staff makes award recommendations based on the panel reviews. And for the arts and community grants, the process can take about 12 weeks. For this grant program, we offer full funding and partial funding. Please be aware that if you receive a South Arts grant, it is important to remember that you have agreed to the contract terms as part of the application process. So please carefully read the terms before you submit. And if you forget, you can always access this information on our Manage Your Grant webpage. Also, please do remember that a one-to-one cash match is required. South Arts makes site visits throughout the year, and we may select your project to visit. We'll be in touch with you if we plan to observe your project at some time in the year. Also, please know that you must acknowledge South Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts, and also write your federal legislators about the award. We would like to encourage you to invite your federal legislators to the events that are funded by these grant funds as well. Finally, you'll need to complete a fairly simple report once your project ends. Photos and videos are optional, but we greatly appreciate them to be included in the report. And typically, grant funds are paid out after your project is complete and you submit your report. However, grantees can request an advance payment before their project takes place. This information can be found on our website under the Manager Grant webpage. So some helpful tips as you prepare your application, please do review and understand the grant guidelines and specifically the new changes. Get familiar with Salesforce and the application flow. Again, this is the system that you will use to submit your grant application. Get your materials such as the work sample and contract early so that you have plenty of time to review it, get any approvals, and upload the materials. Also, please make sure that you have the appropriate technology to upload what's requested or that you have the appropriate websites or links for any necessary documents or materials. I also want to encourage you as you complete your narrative to provide as much detail as possible. Please make sure that you answer all the questions and proof your work. I want to strongly suggest that you provide very good work samples for the artist and also use the available resources that we have on our website, such as the FAQs. Review the narrative questions in advance. These are available on our website, so you can see them before you actually even enter the portal. And also note that there are maximum links for responses. If you develop your responses in programs such as Word, you can always take advantage of their features like spell check and the character count. And also just want to make sure that you review your application before you submit it, just to make sure that everything is accurate and correct. You can access the guidelines, instructions, and Salesforce, all of the information and resources that I mentioned today by visiting our website. You would go to southarts.org, select grants and opportunities at the top of our website, and then go to the arts and community grants. So after reviewing the guidelines and perhaps taking a look at the FAQs, you can feel free to get additional assistance by contacting me by phone or email. So we're going to wrap up with your questions. We're going to take a look at the questions that you have at the moment. If you do have a question, please type it in the Q&A box at the bottom. We will read and answer as many questions that we can with the time left. We will also answer questions. We won't answer questions that are easily found in our guidelines or FAQs. We want to spend our time answering some of the questions that are relevant to today's presentation or things that may not be clear. And as I mentioned before, please do feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. So I'm going to ask Joseph to read the questions that have come in so far.
Yeah, hey Nikki, thank you so much for the presentation. And I will say I've been answering some of the questions within the Q&A. So if they are easily answered, then they are already in there with information pulled from our website. So one of our first questions that we got, and we got this question a couple times, is how would you suggest applicants present LGBTQIA plus information or content that may be sensitive given the current political climate?
Sure. Well, I do want to mention again that this particular grant is supported by federal funds from the National Endowment for the Arts. And you can certainly have a target audience for your activities, but your activities cannot be exclusionary. So they have to be open to anyone that wishes to participate. And you should simply make that clear in the narrative responses about how you'll reach the community and how you'll make sure that the activities are open and accessible to the public.
Great, thank you, Nikki. And then another question that we got a couple of times is, can you clarify what can be within the artist fee? For example, can travel expenses and accommodations be paid for with this grant?
Sure. So travel expenses and lodging, for example, can be included in the artist fee if it is an inclusive artist fee. And it really is about how the contract or agreement is worded. So if, for example, you have an artist fee of $5,000 and that includes travel, it needs to say that in the contract. And the way it's worded would be that the artist fee is $5,000 and this includes travel and lodging expenses. This is an all-inclusive fee. If, on the other hand, it says the fee is $4,000 and we will cover up to $1,000 in travel and lodging, we will not consider travel and lodging. In essence, it has to be a guaranteed fee that you're providing to the artist that includes the travel and lodging, whether or not they use that additional funding to stay at a hotel or stay at a friend's house. So you're guaranteeing the amount, and it is to cover housing and lodging, but we will not consider housing and lodging if it's not part of an all-inclusive fee, because we will not come back to you and ask you for receipts or an adjusted budget. So that is the way that you can include travel and lodging, if that makes sense. It has to be an all-inclusive fee, and that fee has to be stated in the contract. And that language has to be clear in the contract as well.
Great, thank you. And then along those same lines, can you confirm the requirements for application in terms of the contract needed to be eligible? So the contract with the artist or the LOI?
Sure. So the contract should include the dates, preferably the times of the activities, the list of activities. So it can say a 1-hour master class or 4 1-hour master classes on these dates. So it should include the dates, the fee, perhaps the time or duration of each activity. It needs to include signatures by both parties. So I'll summarize in case it wasn't clear: the dates, the activities and duration, the fee, and signed by both parties. Both parties meaning the artist or company and the venue or host.
Great, thank you. And then another one that was asked a couple of times is, can an organization that is fiscally sponsored apply?
Unfortunately, no, we do not accept fiscal sponsors. So to be an eligible applicant, you must have your own 501c3 status.
Thank you. And along those same lines, what kind of documentation is required for an organization that has a government status? So not a 501c3 necessarily, but more of a government entity.
So it depends. This could be a wide range of documents. It could be a tax exempt letter that you may provide to vendors. If you're a college or university, it could be a tax exempt letter from the federal government or from your state government saying that you are part of state or federal, state or county or any other municipality, that you're part of government. Sometimes if it is like a small town, we've accepted letters from officials within the government agency, just indicating and certifying that they are part of the government system. So I can work with any applicant if you're unclear, but hopefully that gives you a good sense of the documentation that we need.
Great. And then this one is a bit of a two-parter question, but there have been a few questions about types of projects that are commonly applied for or awarded. And then within that same question, there was a question about how to go about applying for a project that is multi-part, something like a festival.
Okay, I'll take it once at a time. So this is actually a new structure that we have for this grant program, and we're hoping that we're not too prescriptive. So the type of projects can be wide ranging. It really is up to you as the applicant um, to determine or design a project that you feel best represents your community needs or your goals as perhaps an artist ensemble. So it can be a variety, it can look very different depending on the applicant. What if you are an artist ensemble, what we're looking for or hoping for is that you are interested in going to another southern state to share your work in some way. And so how you want to do that, again, really depends on your capacity as an artist and what resources you have available to you with the local host. For an activity or an applicant such as a festival, we would not support an entire festival simply because the grant program is limited to one artist or one ensemble. So you'd have to select one artist that resides in our region and apply for that artist. So we wouldn't support the entire festival or an entire, let's say, performing arts series. This grant is solely about supporting an artist engagement for one artist within a community during a certain period of time. So I hope that answers all of the questions that were asked clearly.
Yeah, I believe so. Um, and then another question that came up a couple times was, can you provide clarity on an applicant's eligibility to apply for multiple South Arts programs, and in the chance that they receive multiple grants from South Arts, is there a delineation between what programs they can receive from? I can also break that up into two questions if that's easier.
I should be able to answer it. So, and I would say I am aware of only one case where you cannot apply to multiple programs, and those are for two programs that I manage. So I will give a disclaimer that again, I encourage you to contact the program directors for the specific programs you're asking about and ask those program directors if you're planning to apply for this program and another, just to make sure that it is eligible. But typically, the only restriction is that you cannot apply to the Arts and Community Grant, this grant program that I just discussed, and our Arts and Rural Places grant. That is because those two grant programs are mostly about artist engagement in Southern communities. They're very much alike in many ways, though there are some differences, and we are targeting rural and isolated communities for our Arts and Rural Places grant. So you can't apply for both of those and you can't receive a grant for both of those. So it's not apply and see what you get. You'll need to select which program you are eligible for and apply. Now, they both have different deadlines, so that should make things hopefully easier, and they both have different requirements and expectations. So to my knowledge, those are the only two programs that have restrictions, but again, encourage you to have one-on-one conversations with the program directors for the other programs that I briefly touched on or that you might see on our website.
Great. Thank you, Nikki. And then I lost it. Let me find this real quick. There were a couple questions of if you could, before we sign off today, share the slide with your contact information once again, just so people can have that available.
Sure, and also my contact information is available on our website in a couple of places. If you go to our website, southarts.org, and go to staff, you can find my contact info there. Also, if you are on the Arts and Community Grants webpage, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll also be taken, I believe, directly to my email. If not, it will send you to the staff listing where you can access my phone and email address.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then there was also a couple questions asking for clarity on the past applicants applying again. So for instance, if you are planning to partner with an artist that received funding from this grant in the past, are they still eligible? Or if you are in connection or working on a project with a organization that has received FY24, FY25 funds from this grant, are you eligible to apply?
Okay, so there are two answers. So if you are a past grantee, meaning you received a grant from South Arts as the applicant, you applied and received a grant in FY24 or FY25, you are not eligible for this cycle and you cannot apply. If, on the other hand, you received an FY24 grant for an artist, let's just say a dance company, because this question came up, you are not eligible to apply, but that Southern dance company, if they're a 501c3, can apply for a grant. And maybe they would visit your community. So we consider the applicant as the grantee, not the artists that may have benefited from our grant funds in the past. So to be clear, if you received a direct grant from us in FY24 or FY25 for the presentation grant, the express grant, or the traditional arts touring grant, you were not eligible for this grant program this fiscal year. If you were a dance company or a music ensemble or visual artist or any other artist that was a part of an application or project that was funded in 24 or 25 and you are 501c3, then you are likely eligible to apply to this grant program this year. And if you have more specific or nuanced questions, feel free to call or email me.
Great. And that also answered my next question. So we'll move on. There were a few questions about if it is possible to get to receive advanced funds prior to the close of the program or the opportunity.
There is. So we, as I mentioned in the presentation, we typically award grant funds after the project is completed and the grantee submits the final report. But we say in our on our website, you can find this information as well. We do allow grantees to request advance funds, and you simply just need to send an email stating that you would like advance funds and for what reason. So you're allowed to request up to 75% of the grant funds in advance, and you would not have to wait until you complete the project or submit your final report. The only requirement is that you submit your request 30 days prior to the project start date, because once we get around that 30-day period or the start of your project is when you'll be sending in the final report and we'll be processing the paperwork for the payment anyway. So just make sure if you want an advance payment that is done well before your project starts.
Great, thank you, Nikki. And before I ask the next question, just a reminder that if you're submitting very specific questions, then those would be better if you emailed Nikki or I, and we can answer those offline. We did get a few questions about, given the current National Endowment for the Arts situation, how secure is the funding, and is there anything in place or any plans in place if NEA funding were to fall through?
Great question. And unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for that. I will say that we feel pretty comfortable and confident that we will receive our funds from the National Endowment for the Arts that supports these grants. However, there is the possibility, and always has been the possibility, that those funds could be rescinded or canceled. And we do have that language on our website just stating that. And so we would have to address how we would handle that when that time comes. But again, we feel pretty comfortable and confident that we will have funds to support this program, and which is why we launched it.
Great. Thank you so much, Nikki. And then again, we were getting a few questions about if you could provide a little clarity upon if you are an artist seeking to apply for this grant, what's the process or suggested process um, uh, to find a presenter or a nonprofit organization that you can apply with. If you could speak a little to that relatively vague question. So if you need more clarity, please let me know.
Sure. So just to be clear, if you are an individual artist, meaning you do not have a 501c3 organization or part of an ensemble that has a 501c3, then you cannot apply. You do have to be an arts organization. So not to say that if you're an artist and you happen to have a 501c3 in some other sector, like a business sector license for nonprofit status, that would not work. Only arts organizations are allowed to apply to this grant program. So want to say that. Two, I'm really excited that we are able to open this grant program up to artist ensembles. And so a couple of suggestions. One, if you're an individual artist and you can't apply on your own and you're looking for a host community or a host venue, you can, I would encourage you to take a look at our website. I believe it's under the resources tab where we list past grantees. You can see which organizations were funded in the past, and that might be a good way to find a potential partner that's close to you, or a partner that you've been looking at. I would encourage you to do some research on that venue or space, just to ensure that your work and their space and values and program align. If you are a host or a venue and you're looking for a Southern artist, you can take a look at our website under this grant webpage. We do have a list of previous artists that have been supported through various programs at South Arts, not only our grant programs, but our fellowships. At one time, we had a booking conference and we had jury showcases. So those artists that were selected are also on that list. So the list that's on our website provides a list of artists that went through some type of adjudication process, like a panel review. I will acknowledge that the list needs to be updated. We have not had the capacity to really go through and check to make sure that the artists are still perhaps with us, or that they're still touring, or that their websites are current. We've tried to do our best and we will be working on that, but it certainly gives you a great place to start. You can sort by state, you can sort by discipline, all types of things to find a particular artist. So I hope that answers your question. If not, Joseph, please let me know if there's something that I missed.
That answered that question, and then my next one as well. So we're doing great. And I will also say that there have been a few questions about if they can receive the slides and information. And so I do want to clarify that you will receive the slides and a link to the webinar and the website later on this week.
Great. We probably have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Awesome. I am getting, this is a question we went over early on in the process, but I'm receiving a few more questions about it. So can we just confirm once more about what is needed in the contract between the applying partner and the artist to be eligible?
Sure, and this is information that's available on our website. Toward the bottom about what you'll need to include in your application, it clearly states the elements of the contract. So what we need in the contract, the letter of agreement or the letter of intent, or host agreement. We take or accepting different forms depending on if you're an artist ensemble applying or if you are an organization applying to bring in an artist. But generally speaking, that document needs to be signed by both parties. That's very important. It needs to have the activities listed and the duration of those activities. So for example, a 2-hour performance or a 1-hour masterclass on these dates. So it should include the dates as well. And it should include the artist fee, what the artist will be paid. So the activities, the duration of those activities, the dates of the activities, and the artist fee for the artist for the sum of those activities. Signed by both parties.
Great, thank you. And then for our last question, we were asked, does the artist the organization engages with, do they need to be a new artist, or can they be an artist that the organization has previously had performed for them or have engaged with them?
It can be a new artist or one that they have engaged with before. I will say that it's always helpful to hear if you're bringing an artist back to your community, and of course, if there's space to add this detail, why you want to bring them back. If you're building on something from the past that was successful, that's really important to hear about the artist and their engagement with your community. So it's just a different level of detail that I think adds to your application if you're bringing an artist back that's been to your community before. But we will accept an application for any artist that resides in our region but outside of your state. Okay, so if I did not get to your question, please do feel free to call or email me. I will say that probably for the rest of the week, my attention will probably be tied up because we just had a deadline for another grant program, but I promise I will get to your email as soon as possible and no later than Monday. But I do want to thank all of you for joining us for today's webinar. We hope that the information that was shared was helpful. And again, there's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out. We also do ask that you take a few minutes to complete the post-webinar survey that will show up. There's going to be a link that pops up soon, and you'll also receive an email from Joseph that has the link. And if you decide not to apply, or if you're not eligible to apply, please consider perhaps serving on a panel for this grant program. There is a nomination form that's available on the Arts and Community Grants webpage. If you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see nominate yourself as a panelist or get to the panelist form. We would appreciate anyone interested in serving as a panel sharing their interest. So thank you again, and good luck everyone with your applications.